Hello all, welcome you to the course on corporate laws and governance. In this video, we are going to look at globalization and corporate governance. So, we are going to look at how globalization has impacted the corporate governance because of liberalization, because of changes in the trade policies of different countries. Many businesses have started their operations across nations. They have started with transnational companies, multinational corporations, as a result of which they do have challenges with respect to adhering to different regulatory environment, different regulatory frameworks. They have to adjust themselves to different cultural norms. Not only that, if we look at the expectation of the shareholders, this is also varied in nature for the reason when a company is going to operate across countries, the shareholders' expectations will also vary depending on the country they belong to, as a result of which the companies have to come with different rules and regulations as per the expectation of different shareholders belonging to different countries. When we say shareholders, it is not only the shareholders, they will have to actually satisfy the expectation of the institutional investors, the foreign government, etc. So, globalization with governance, what does it actually mean? Let's look at that. Globalization with governance refers to the process of increasing the interconnectedness and interdependence among the countries and the regions in the world. While doing that, they will have to implement effective governance mechanism in order to regulate and manage the various aspects of the global integration. So, whenever the companies go for globalization, what they will have to do is they have the challenge of integrating the rules and regulations and the procedures as per the requirement of the different countries. And when they are going to do this, they will have to strike a balance between the benefits of globalization. When we say benefits of globalization, we talk about the different trade benefits, the economic benefits, the increase in the per capita income. All these benefits accrue because of globalization. But globalization also comes with negative consequences also. So, the corporate governance of a particular company should also look into the negative consequences of globalization, like we talk about the social inequality, or for that matter the economic issues which happens because of globalization, or environmental degradation. All these are the issues that crop up because of globalization. So, whenever the companies are going to expand their business across countries, they will have to integrate the business with such kinds of rules and regulations which actually boost the benefits, but at the same time which reduces the negative consequences like the social inequality or the economic inefficiencies, or for that matter environmental degradation. So, now we are going to look at what are all the different important concepts of globalization that have to be looked at from the perspective of corporate governance. So, globalization, we all know globalization is about the transfer of or the movement of people, services, goods, information, knowledge, capital, etc. So, all these movements are happening from one country to another country, and these globalization was possible, or it is possible, because of the enhanced transportation, communication. All these have actually paved way for the globalization. So, as a result of globalization, the rules and regulations, because whenever we talk about corporate governance is to do with the procedures, rules and regulations which the company follows in running the business. That is what corporate governance is all about. So the governance, or for that matter the rules, regulations, procedures which the company follows for making effective decisions, for effective allocation of resources, for enforcing all the rules, for all that they will have to do it in such a manner that it goes with the requirement of globalization. And we cannot negate the fact that the international organization play a very vital role with respect to the corporate governance from the globalization perspective. We do have institutions like the World Trade Organization, previously known as GATT. We have the World Health Organization. So we talk about IMF, World Bank. So all these international organizations help in framing rules for the different corporations across countries with respect to diplomacy, with respect to trade, finance, etc. So these organizations, they play a very important role with respect to formulation of rules and regulations and the procedures for enforcing the diplomacy, the financial transactions and trade transactions among different countries. So one of this is the trade agreements that happens among the countries of different regions, for that matter. If we look at the Asia, we do have SAARC, we have ASEAN, we have, if we look at the other continents, we have European Union, NATO, NAFTA. These are all the different trade agreements which the different continents as well as the different countries around the globe enter into. And why this has been done? Because they want to put the rules and regulations in place for these countries while they trade among themselves, because whenever trade happens, disputes bound to happen, and in order to resolve the disputes and as well as to enhance the cooperation among these countries while they trade, these trade agreements are very vital. And these trade agreements are to do with rules, regulations, procedures which have to be followed while transacting with one another. So trade agreements have a huge role to play with respect to the corporate governance under the globalization perspective. So when we look at the environmental regulation, because this globalization brings with it, so one of the negative consequences of the globalization is the environmental degradation. So all the companies, they should not be working towards enhancing their own economic benefits. It is about protecting the environment. They have to involve themselves in the sustainable business practices. So this has to be, they are starting their operations in different countries, but they have to ensure that they follow the environmental norms while doing the business, and they will have to keep the sustainability in their mind while deciding or while taking different decisions for whether it is going to be whether it is going to do with the procurement of the raw materials, or with respect to the production process, or with respect to the distribution of goods and services. They should always keep in mind the sustainability practices in transactions, so that it protects the environment. This is where we talk about the different agreements that the countries enter into. For instance, we talk about the Paris Agreement, which is there in order to protect the environment around the globe. So these kinds of agreements that happens among the countries to protect the environment also has an impact over the corporate governance. So when the companies start their business in other countries, it is mandatory that they should protect the rights of the laborers. They should ensure that the labor welfare is protected. Employees are given a safe, healthy environment while they work. This is where we talk about the International Labour Organization. International Labour Organization helps that ensures that when companies operate across countries, that these companies adhere to the basic essential labor norms so that the laborers are not exploited. Again, their financial crisis happen, which has been happening in different countries, mainly because of the corporate governance failure. So we have institutions like the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, Asian Development Bank. All these institutions come out with rules, regulations, procedures, norms with respect to the financial transactions. They extend the aids to different countries and they ensure that the norms are followed by the companies so that the corporate governance failure due to the financial irregularities are reduced. One of the negative consequences of the globalization is that when the companies enter into different countries, there are chances that they may act as a threat to the cultural heritage of the particular country. So they may influence the cultural norms of the particular country through their product offering, through their communication with the public. So there is definitely a risk of affecting the cultural heritage of a country. So this is where we talk about UNESCO and similar organizations which ensure that the cultural heritage of the countries are protected. Global health has become a very important aspect with respect to globalization. We all know globalization has resulted in the movement of goods, services as well as people from one country to another country, and as a result of which there are chances when there are going to be pandemic. It is bound to happen when people move from one country to another country for trade purposes. Then the epidemic or pandemic, the chances of it getting spread is very high, which this kind of scenario we already faced during COVID. So where this globalization somewhere down the line, it puts the global population at risk whenever there are going to be a pandemic in one particular country. So it is important that the companies as well as the public follow the health norms when they are going to move from one country to another country. This is where we talk about the World Health Organization. Globalization definitely helps the companies to improve their operational performance, to increase their profitability. It helps them to expand their business, to increase the scale of operation, all that is there. But it also should ensure that they work for the social inclusion and the economic inclusion. It is not about them making profit. They should ensure that the income level of the people wherever they have their business increases. They should also ensure that the downtrodden people, they should contribute to the community where they have their operation. Not necessarily it should be their home country, but wherever they are going to operate, they should be working for the upliftment of different socially underprivileged sections of the society, where we talk about female population, or for that matter physically challenged community, or for that matter tribals. All these downtrodden and underprivileged people should be given importance, and these companies should work towards these communities in whichever place they operate. Not necessarily it should be their home country, and it should be voluntary in nature. So these are all the aspects which should be kept in mind when the companies expand their business beyond their home country. Next, we are going to look at the OECD's corporate governance factors book 2023, and in that fact book 2023 we are going to look at those analysis which talks about the globalization, corporate governance from the globalization perspective. In the last video also we looked at the OECD's corporate governance fact book 2023, and the period of analysis was from 2020 to 2021, and we saw that they had 49 jurisdictions for which they have done the analysis, and these OECD, and once in 2 years they publish this data. They analyze the data of different countries, and the idea is that they want to have an understanding of how corporate governance practices are there in different countries, where you can make a comparison of how it is different from across different countries. So we will get an idea about corporate governance in different countries. So we are going to look at those analyses which are relevant with respect to globalization. That is what we are going to look at now. So first thing that we are going to look at is the sustainability and the green transition. So whenever we talk, because we know one of the negative consequences of the globalization is the increase in the carbon footprints. Somewhere down the line they have to protect the environment, and they will have to bring sustainability perspective in all their operations, whether it is supply, when we can say right from the procurement of the raw material till the product reaches the consumer. The company should strive towards following the sustainability practices in order to protect the environment. So here we are going to look at like how far these companies disclose the sustainability related information to the public. Normally listed companies we know, like either the ministry of the government or the stock exchanges or the private agencies come with codes, corporate governance codes, and here they talk about ESG is playing a very vital role. ESG reporting is it has become very important, because this sustainability reporting is considered to be a material financial risk by the listed companies. So reporting of sustainability related practices are very important. But when we look at the number of listed companies disclosing this sustainability related information, globally it is very low. Almost 8,000 companies are listed in 73 markets globally, and only these 8,000 companies have disclosed their sustainability performance in 2021. So only 8,000 listed companies of 73 markets have only disclosed the sustainability performance in 2021. So if you look at it, the number, if you look at the percentage of listed companies who have disclosed this sustainability practices, it is only 19%. This 8,000 companies constitute only 19% of all the listed companies globally. That is why it is told that the number of listed companies who are disclosing the sustainability related information is very low. And if we look at it, so it is 17% disclosing of the sustainability related practices of the listed companies is 17% in China, and the maximum it is 34% in Europe. So basically across the globe, sustainability reporting disclosure is very low. When we look at the kind of role the board plays with respect to sustainability reporting, they definitely play a very important role with respect to the sustainability reporting. But having said that, of the jurisdictions that had been analyzed by OECD, only 50% of the countries In these countries, the boards play an important role in sustainability reporting, and this 50% of the jurisdictions, the boards have to approve the sustainability related policies, or they will have to recommend. They will have to either approve the sustainability reported sustainability related policies, or they will have to recommend sustainability related policies to the company. So they are actually playing a very vital role, and they should ensure that these policies are implemented. The company comes with the sustainability related plans, targets, and they should also monitor how these sustainability related activities get implemented. But all these happen only in 50% of the jurisdictions that had been taken up for analysis by OECD, and whatever analysis that we are doing, it pertains to the year 2020 to 2021. Next aspect that we are going to look at is the shareholders' participation in remote meetings. This is very important. Why so is that the extent to which the quality of corporate governance it depends on the shareholders' participation. Shareholders are expected to participate very actively in the board meetings, so that somewhere down the line they bring in accountability to the management as well as to the board of directors. So when we have this participation of the shareholders in the remote meetings, what it says is there is a possibility that the number of shareholders who participate in these meetings go up because when they are not around in the place where the meeting happens, they can still join the meeting online. So somewhere down the line they are going to be very active in their participation. This definitely has an impact over the corporate governance practices. So let's look at how things are in the different countries as per the analysis by OECD for the year 2020 to 2021. So here from the graph we can see that 75% of the jurisdictions they can go for virtual meetings. Virtual, that is, they need not even hold offline meeting. They can conduct the meeting out and out online, where they need not have the offline meeting. It is not hybrid, it is total virtual meeting. It is all in 75% of the jurisdictions these virtual meetings are allowed, and it is also regulated by the appropriate ministry or the stock market regulator. So it is regulated in nature. So even if we look at the hybrid meetings also pretty high. 80% of the jurisdictions, they have a provision in their law or in their listing rules that they can go ahead with the hybrid meetings. This is a very good sign for corporate governance, for the reason that the participation of the shareholders will go up drastically, and when the shareholders participation increases, automatically accountability of the board and the management will also go up. This will result in paving for a very good corporate governance practices by the company. But do we have it in the article of association? That is what the next diagram talks about. So if you see here, the number of jurisdictions having it as a provision in the article of association is very less. So they do only less number of jurisdictions, they have it as a provision in the article of association. And in most of the places it is not regulated, and it is not part of the article of association, these kinds of hybrid meetings and virtual meetings, but they do have it in their listing rules or in their laws. The next aspect that we are going to look at is decision making and gender balance. One of the important parameter for the corporate governance is the board diversity. Participation of female in the board matters a lot for the reason they will be bringing a new perspective, and they will be bringing varied expertise, and this will actually increase or the effectiveness of the decision making process in a particular country or in a particular company for that matter. So gender diversity definitely matters, which actually talks about or which has a direct impact on the corporate governance. Let's look at how these gender diversity is across countries. So we do have 3 graphs. If we look at it, more or less all the 3 graphs are below 30%. So if we look at it, the gender diversity, the participation of women in the board or at the senior management level is still below 30%. So we have 3 different graphs over there, line graphs over there. The first one, on the top we have quota, the middle one is the target, and the third one is the no provision. So, and we have different time period also. One good thing what we have is that the gender diversity is on the rise in all the 3 categories from 2017 to 2022. It has been increasing, whether it is quota, target or no provision for that matter. The participation of women in the board and in the senior managerial positions is on the rise, though it is below 30%. It is on the rise. What is this quota? Quota means here in those countries where it is mandated that they should have at least 1 women director or at least 1 women independent director. So all these would be mandated by either by the law or by the listing rules. So these companies are mandated to have these women directors in the board. So that is called as quota. Target or voluntary, that means it is up to the company to ensure that they have codes, they have voluntary codes that had been prescribed either by the stock market regulator or by the ministry, where they are expected to have participation of women in the board. So it is not mandated, it comes under comply or explain. So where they have to comply with the voluntary codes that had been prescribed. If they do not comply with the voluntary code that had been prescribed, they will have to explain why they couldn't adhere to that voluntary code. So it is not mandated as such. So the third one is no provision. There is neither a mandatory provision nor voluntary code for the companies to follow. It is up to them. So the good thing is, in all the 3 categories, the participation of women is actually on the rise. Though it is below 30%, it is on the rise over a period. That's a very, very good sign with respect to board diversity in terms of gender. So when we look at this no provision category, the third one, the green one, so it is on the increase. What it signifies is there is no voluntary code, there is no mandatory provision. Still the companies are ensuring that they have female participation in the board as well as at the senior management level. This, what it signifies is the shareholders are actually playing a very, very active role in the meetings, as a result of which somewhere down the line the companies have ensured, even though there is no compulsion, even though there is no voluntary code, they still go ahead with appointing female directors as well as female at the senior management level. So it talks about the kind of active role that these shareholders play. They are taking initiative for gender diversity, and they should also ensure that the environment is created in the company wherein female directors and female senior management personnel are recruited. So overall, this is a very positive sign with respect to globalization and corporate governance. Next aspect that we are going to look at is the corporate landscape and the ownership concentration. Ownership concentration we have looked at in different videos. Ownership concentrations are, a concentration is divided into two. One is the diffused ownership structure. Next is the controlled ownership structure. These are the two things that are there. So normally we operate or we work towards having a diffused ownership structure. Why so? Because we will have large number of shareholders who would be participating in the capital formation of the company, and if that is to happen, we need to have many companies getting listed in the stock market. So somewhere down the line, many companies should try getting themselves listed in the stock market in order to raise money. When they do that, we will have a diffused ownership structure. Diffused ownership structure do have an issue. Only issue that we have is that we have the agency problem, where the owners always would be wanting the company to maximize the wealth, and the manager would may be working for his or her own welfare. So where there is a mismatch in the goals, that is the only problem. But what happens, the stock market, the external financial market would be growing, it would be liquid. Somewhere down the line, it makes the financial system pretty dynamic. If you look at it, so we need to have many companies getting listed. Only when we have many listed companies, then only we will have there is a possibility of having diffused ownership structure. So if we look at the data, as at the end of 2022, there are totally 44,000 listed companies in the world, and United States is the country where we have companies. We have the largest market in terms of market capitalization, and Asia is the continent where we have the highest number of listed companies. Why this particular concentration, ownership concentration matters is, more the listed companies, more the possibility of having a diffused ownership structure, which will pave way for a very deep financial system. The external market would be pretty dynamic in nature, and where the shareholding would be with many shareholders. So that would be the advantage of a diffused ownership structure. In order to achieve this diffused ownership structure, many companies should go for listing themselves in the stock market. They will have to approach the external market, the stock market as well as the bond market, or for that matter the money market, in order to raise the money. So next we will move on to the concept called Koch's Roundtable for Moral Capitalism. What is this Koch's Roundtable for Moral Capitalism? It is an international network of experienced business leaders. These business leaders come together, and what do? They work with different business, different companies, different political leaders, and the purpose of them working with these business and the political leaders is to design strategies, management tools and practices in order to strengthen the private enterprises and the public governance to improve the global community. The idea is they want to improve the global community. And how do they want to do it? They want to do it by guiding the business and the political leaders. It is not only related with the companies, it is also related with the government who run the country, and they want to suggest, or they want to design, they want to collaborate and design different strategies and tools so that the governance improves both with the companies as well as with the, or as well as in a particular country. That is the idea of this Koch's Roundtable for Moral Capitalism. So it is more to do with governance for a country as well as for companies across the countries. So if you look at this Cox Roundtable for Moral Capitalism, this was founded in 1986 by Frederick Phillips, who was the former president of Philips Electronics, and Oliver Gisgard, vice chairman of INSEAD. They actually founded this Cox Roundtable for Moral Capitalism, and they want to develop a very constructive economic and social relationship between the participant countries. The idea is to improve the corporate governance practices among the companies and among the countries. So they have come out with different principles. They have come out with principles for business, they have come out with principles for governments, principles for the non-governmental organization. So they have principles for different, and they have come out with principles for stakeholders. So they do have codes. They have come out with codes for different entities in order to achieve a good corporate governance. First, let's look at what are all the principles that Cox Roundtable have for moral capitalism have come out with for business. They call it as principles for responsible business. The first principle is to do with respect the stakeholders beyond the shareholders. So shareholders are definitely important. The companies have to create wealth for the shareholders, but at the same time they will have to take care of the interest of the stakeholders. They will have to ensure the welfare of the employees. They have to bring in social diversity in their operation, where they need to have policies for the physically challenged, underprivileged. They need to, under the kind of labor welfare measures that they have for the employees, it matters. They have to produce goods and services that are needed by the customers, of course, but they will have to give high quality product at an affordable rate. They will have to adhere to all the fairness in their transactions with the suppliers as well as with their intermediaries. So it is not only about the shareholders where they create wealth for the shareholders. It is about improving the welfare for the employees, adhering to the fairness in the transactions with the intermediaries as well as with the suppliers, taking care of the customers where they should give the best products and those products which the consumers actually want at an affordable price. All these have to be kept in mind by the company. That is the first principle is all about. If you look at the second principle is about contributing to the economic and social development. Whenever a company expands its business in different places, in different regions, they will definitely grow in terms of their sales turnover, in terms of their worth, in terms of their assets. They are going to grow. It is not only about them growing, it is about what they give back to the community because of which they are thriving. So they will have to contribute to the country in which they operate. They should give the employees fair wages, because only when they give the fair wages, the per capita income will go up, the purchasing power will go up. That is where we talk about the economic development, and they have to give back to the community where they operate in terms of human rights, in terms of education. So they have to work for the upliftment of the downtrodden community, underprivileged people in the community where they operate. So that is the second principle. The third principle talks about building trust by going beyond the letter of the law. We do have rules and regulations. The regulatory environment definitely specifies the rules and regulations which the companies adhere to. But what matters is the spirit with which these rules are followed. That is very, very important. They will have to be transparent. They will have to be bring in accountability in their operation. It is not about following the rules for the sake of it. it is about the involvement that the companies show while following the rules and regulations. That matters a lot. The fourth principle is about respecting the rules and conventions. Globalization brings itself international laws, international rules. We talked about different agreements: NATO, NAFTA, ASEAN, SAARC. We have WTO, which was previously known as GATT. All these entities, all these agreements have rules, and these rules have to be followed. That is there. Somewhere down the line, sometimes the rules may allow the companies to do certain things. There are chances, though it is legally allowed, there are certain activities which may affect the particular section of the society. Though it is legal, when the company knows that their actions may bring in adverse effect on certain section of the community, they should refrain from these activities, though they can do it. That is where they stand out. Okay, they have to. The fifth principle is about following the rules and regulations of WTO, NATO, or any agreement, trade agreement that the country has entered into, and they have to actually follow those rules. So somewhere down the line, the domestic rules may tell them not to follow those international rules and regulations, but if it is going to support, or if it is going to bring in a better environment among the countries, the company should follow those rules and regulations, even though their home country, in their home country, they as per their home country's rules, they need not follow that. But if they feel that these rules will bring in better practices, the companies should go ahead following that. The sixth principle is about the companies respecting the environment. They will have to work towards reducing the carbon footprints. They will have to adhere to or adopt sustainable practices right from the procurement of the raw materials till the product reaches the consumer's hand. The seventh principle is about them being ethical. That is very, very important. The companies should refrain from bribing. They should refrain from involving themselves in terrorist funding, or for that matter money laundering, organized crime. They will have to refrain from all these unethical and illegal activities. So these are all the 7 principles that was given by Cox Roundtable for Moral Capitalism to the companies to follow to improve the corporate governance practices. Next, let's look at what are all the principles that they have given to the companies with respect to the stakeholder management. So we call this as stakeholder management guidelines. First is the customers. Customers should be respected, they should be treated well, and they should be given those goods and services which they actually want, and it should be given at the best quality at affordable rate. Employees should be treated well, they should be given better work environment in terms of safety, in terms of health. That is very, very important, and they have to be given fair wages. Only when the employees are the internal customers, only when the internal customers are kept happy, then only these internal customers will ensure that the external customers are satisfied. So it is the duty of the company to treat their employees well. Next, what we have is the shareholders. We all know shareholders, they are the owners of the company. So the management and the board of directors, they should be very caring, and they should be loyal towards the shareholders. Whatever decisions that they take, they should keep in mind the interest of the shareholders. The shareholders ultimately want the wealth to be maximized. The companies should strive towards maximizing the wealth for them, but in a ethical manner by following the rules and regulations. They have to treat their suppliers with all fairness. They should be very direct in pricing. They have, especially with respect to licensing as well as payment, there should not be any kind of they cannot be deceiving the supplier. They will have to be very transparent in their operation, and they will have to be fair with the suppliers. Similarly, they will have to be highly ethical with respect to their competitors also. They should not try evincing information about the competitors in an unethical manner, and they should not involve themselves in any kind of anti-competitive agreements wherein they try to throw away the competitors by charging a low price. They should not use their power in throwing away the competitors from the market. They should not involve themselves in collusion, or they should refrain from any kind of anti-competitive agreements. It is not only about the customers, employees, shareholders, suppliers and the competitors. They are answerable, or they should give back to the community where they are actually getting all the resources. So they will have to work towards the community development. They will have to ensure that there is social inclusion, economic inclusion, and there is a sustainable development, and they should promote the human rights. All these have to be kept in mind by the company with respect to the stakeholders management. The last one that we are going to look at is the principles for non-governmental organizations. If you look at the non-governmental principles for the non-governmental organization, the first principle what we have is integrity. So every non-governmental organization, they do have their own codes of aspiration. So they should have the integrity to work towards their codes of aspiration. That is very, very important. The second principle is about public benefit. Of course, they should work towards the codes of aspiration for which they stand for, but they should also work for the values that the people who support them. Okay, so they will have to take into consideration the values, the goals, the political goals, social goals and economic goals of the people who actually support the non-governmental organization. So it is about them following their codes of aspiration, and it is about them integrating their codes of aspiration with the social, economic and political goals of the people who actually support them. The third principle is about transparency. The non-governmental organization should be transparent with respect to all their operations. When we say that, so they have to be transparent with respect to their mission, vision, goals, strategies, policies. All these have to be, they have to ensure transparency. The fourth principle is about participatory governance. Here it is about the non-governmental organization divulging all their operations, all their activities with all the stakeholders who are part of their system. So they will have to divulge information to all their stakeholders. The fifth one is about independence. When we talk about independence, here the non-governmental organization should disclose any kind of tie-up that they are going to have. It could be a political tie-up or otherwise, whatever be the thing. If this tie-ups are going to have an impact on their activities, then it is very, very essential that they disclose their tie-ups, political or any other tie-up which has an impact over their activities. It has to be disclosed, divulged by the non-governmental organization. The sixth one is about the respect for the law. The non-governmental organization should follow both the national laws as well as the international laws. The seventh principle is about care. So non-governmental organizations would be involving themselves in advocacy work, where they would be promoting, propagating certain ideas. So when they are going to be play the role of the advocacy, what they will have to do is they will have to be truthful in all their activities, because especially they will have to give all the information to that section of the society which will get impacted by the idea that they are propagating. So that is very, very important. So they will have to ensure that whenever they play the advocacy role, they give all the information to the people with whom they are interacting, and especially those who will get affected because of their activities, their policies, plans, everything have to be disclosed. That is very, very important. The last principle that we are looking at is accountability. When we talk about accountability, here we talk about them giving information, non-governmental organization giving the information about their activities. Post implementation, they do have their plans, strategies, goals, mission, vision, but all these have to be implemented. When their plans get implemented, the outcome of their activities, all these informations have to be available in a public domain. They have to give these information in their website so that the stakeholders can access these information. So these are all the principles that we have for the non-governmental organizations. Thanks for listening.